Welcome back. I am John P. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Rolex market and maybe a little bit also about the watch market in general. Now, I know that I talk about this a lot on this channel, but that's because with my business partner Federico from Federico Talks Watches, we have Delray Watch where we buy, sell, and trade watches. And the reality is we are asked all the time by collectors and friends and people we do business with, and pretty much anybody that wants our opinion or they want to trade with us about the watch market. And we end up having the conversation a lot, and we love to do it, but we also do have to work, right? We have to make videos, we work, we trade watches, we produce content like this and so many other things. So it always makes a lot of sense to kind of collect all of our thoughts and then make these videos. So make sure to check out his thoughts on the market on Federico Talks Watches, and also myself here, John P. And you can see more on my Instagram, The Real John P. And of course, check out Delray Watch. And feel free to reach out. I also try to do Q&As sometimes where I kind of collect all your questions that I haven't been able to get to one-on-one, or phone calls, things like that, emails, and kind of wrap them all into one video every so often, just for simplicity. So thanks for bearing with me there. Also, the comments below, I like to go through there as well and respond when I can. But the watch market, if you've been a watch collector for more than a week, then you know that watches have had a pullback. Rolex prices have come down. Patek Philippe, Aquanaut, Nautilus, sport watches, the hot watches, think Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, these kind of hot, essential, in-demand watches that saw an unbelievable spike, certainly during COVID, they've come down in pricing, sometimes half price, right? Depending on the model, and things are always changing, right? Things are changing depending on what's on the market, what's being sold. Then you start getting into box and papers, all kinds of different factors that really play a role in the pricing of watches and inventory. So we know that prices have come down, but demand also did go down for quite a period of time. And throughout, I would say, the last 3-4 years, whenever there'd be a really great day, let's say for the stock market, for example, like equities and all of that, people would feel really great about it. We get a lot of phone calls, we get a lot of emails, and people would be in a buying mood. They'd say, I'd like to, treat myself to something nice. And that was kind of the trend. And then the opposite would happen, right? You'd see collectors, yeah, maybe I'll go without this, thin the herd, as they call it, start loosening up the collection. So that was the trend that we saw at Delray Watch for the last, 5 years or so. Now, I'll say that there does not appear to be any rhyme or reason specifically. Some days I'll look at it and I'll say, it's starting to follow that trend again. But it doesn't quite make sense to that extreme. And it seems to be more situational, I would say. It seems to be more situational with the demand, particularly for watches, these hot watches. Depending on maybe the stage of life that collectors are in. I see, maybe, people that are getting closer to retirement or in retirement, they see something like maybe a retirement plan come down a little bit for the short term, right, in the markets, and they're like, maybe I don't need all these watches in my retirement. I'm not working anymore. It doesn't make sense for my lifestyle. Maybe they consolidate, and so they thin up and they put their watches up for sale. But on the other end of things, we do see some people that, have shared with us, maybe they've taken some profits out of, the real estate market, for example. They saw a big surge in some properties, investment properties and things that they've had. And so they got a bit of a, liquidation, and then they wanted to treat themselves to something nice. So they, kind of splurge and get the watches that they always, thought that they wanted. And so I think currently, there are so many people in different situations, different stages, and collectors are no longer that one type of person, right? The diversity in watch collectors today is so many people that in order for that trend line to be drawn and draw it between brands and, places in the world, it's incredibly difficult. Now, all of that being said, maybe you found that interesting, but I suppose, really what you want to know is, are Rolex prices going to go up? Are they going to go down? Is it solid? Is it stable? What about all the other brands? Well, let me start with enthusiast brands like Roger Dubuis, Gerard Perregaux, even, Ulysse Nardin, JLC, maybe, dare I say, some Vacheron models. Some of these more enthusiast models off the beaten path, away from maybe a casual purchaser would buy, right? Someone that's not a collector, just wanted a nice watch. That's a casual. And then we have enthusiasts like us. We're watching these videos. Obviously, we're enthused. this type of market doesn't seem to be too affected, right? We still have so many loyal customers and people that want to trade, they want to trade in, they want to get into something different, they want to explore. And the market is kind of still drying up on some of these brands, right? These types of brands like Daniel Roth that no one really wanted 3, 4, 5 years ago, except for the diehard collectors. There's way more collectors now, so the demand's still going up, and I haven't really seen the price come down on that because the demand's still climbing as more collectors enter the market and there's not more of these watches being made. Now, when we get into the Rolex hot models, get into the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, get into the Patek Philippe hot models, yes, there is a pullback in terms of secondary market pricing, but it already seen, double, sometimes triple the price during the COVID era, a little bit before that, a big ramp up in the increase in demand as alternative assets, things like that. And so yes, there is a pullback, but they're still not selling below retail. They're still mostly all selling above retail. There's some exceptions, right? There's a couple OP models, with more plain dials, not, certainly not the Stella-esque dials or the turquoise dial. That's still going over retail, but it's not going for the $50,000 plus, the turquoise Rolex OP Tiffany dial. That's not going for what it was, before. It's tapered down in price along with the other similar models, but there still is demand. It's just at a lower price, right? I don't see a lot of people abandoning the Rolex brand. Maybe some people are kind of trimming back, pulling back, but not from the enthusiast level. So in terms of your collection, or at least the way that I see it from my collection and how we're kind of managing our inventory of watches that we're stocking at Delray Watch, we're really doubling down and focusing on the enthusiast watches. We'll still bring in Rolex because I like Rolex. I'm not wearing one right now. I'm actually wearing a Breguet Classique Tiffany dial. Very cool. You can see pictures of this on my Instagram, The Real John P. But that's where we're focusing at Delray Watch. We're focusing on these enthusiast brands, and it seems that even through COVID and the different crashes and the dips, and it's stayed more constant because more people are becoming collectors every day, and it just hasn't pulled down in the same kind of a way. And the production volumes for these brands, like if you want that model that exists, you want a Girard-Perregaux Laureato, like how many of them are floating around out there pre-owned? Like not very much. But you want a Rolex Submariner, you can buy it from any watch dealer anywhere at any corner of the world. And that is going to play a role and a major factor when considering purchasing the watch, right? If there's issues in the economy, everybody has the watch, things become a little more competitive. But these enthusiast brands, while they may not see these huge spikes in increase or realizations of prices where you can, double your money or something like that, picking it up at an authorized dealer, there's also, appearing to be, if you buy it right, buy it pre-owned, not as much potential downside, right? Let's say you buy it at retail, there's going to be a known downside, a pretty consistent downside for one of these brands like a Girard-Perregaux if you bought it retail new, compared to, you buying a pre-owned, let's say, Rolex Hulk or something like that. It could go either way. So it goes both ways. But at the end of the day, something that's always said, it's very redundant, but buy what you love and wear what you buy. And that's generally the way that I approach it with my collection. And I think going into the future, we're going to see a lot more people kind of adapting this mentality because of the way that there's been different swings and really not knowing where things will go. And there have been a lot of publications and newspapers and journals that really positioned, I think, certain watches and brands as definitive investments in the new wave of asset classes, or like the new NFT and this kind of a thing. And that just may not be the case. I certainly haven't seen any one of these newspapers release an article like that in the last few weeks. Let me know, what do you guys think in the comments below? I would love to see and hear your opinions. I try to answer as many questions or comments that I can. And also, please do not forget to check out DelrayWatch.com, where we buy, sell, and trade watches. Specifically, we focus on enthusiast brands and watch brands that deliver a lot of great value and true interest for people that are interested in, maybe the more horological aspects of watches. So guys, please do not forget to tune in next time. You have been chatting with John P.